In this video, I'm going to talk about something that I want to name playing with fire. What does this consist of? Well, this time I want to discuss a topic that has been going on for a long time. Just to mention a reference, have you ever been told that you are doing something dangerous and knowing that you are doing it, you keep going? Well, this is what I want to talk about in this video. There have been cases of famous musicians who have died at the hands of gangs, this in the United States. But in Mexico, something similar happens. There have been many musicians who have died at the hands of narco, those drug cartels that terrorize and threaten society that only asks for peace and tranquility. But that doesn't happen just because they want to kill these musicians. The musical genre called banda and norteña are very popular musical genres in Mexico that for some time has begun to get popular and has become one of the musical genres most listened to by the Mexican population. In this video, I will show you 5 Mexican musicians who got killed by the narco drug cartels. Before starting, I want to clarify that the numbering of cases has no influence or importance. Valentin Elizalde. The case that generated more commotion was the murder of Valentin Elizalde in 2006, when the crusade against drug trafficking started by the government of former President Felipe Calderón. On November that year, it was reported that the singer had been killed by a group of gunmen after leaving a show at a festival in Reynosa, Tamaulipas. According to unofficial versions, an armed group that ruled the territory executed him for singing to them a song in the name of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The song was called, translated into English, "To My Enemies." Rumor says that the singer was threatened. Supposedly, the singer had been warned to refrain from giving the show, but he ignored the warnings and attended to give what would be his last show. Another version handled was that Valentin was related to a woman of a powerful drug trafficker, so he got killed in response. The last version known and handled was that before Elizalde began the concert in Reynosa, mysterious man entered his dressing room and offered to sing at a private party at the end of the show. But Elizalde alleged that he would be very tired by then. In addition to that, he had a show on November 25 in another state. At the end of the show, the men approached Valentin to offer him again to sing. He refused and then they murdered him. These gunmen fired at the truck at least 70 times and Valentin would be hit by 17 bullets. As an incredible fact, one of the 4 people who were inside the truck, Valentin's cousin, survived. This is because the person who was traveling in the back of the truck was asleep. At the time of the weapon detonations, this subject woke up and remained where he was. By the time the firing ceased, he only observed how the other crew members had been killed. In the place, the authorities collected 70 casings of different calibers. This was the first of many murders of singers by armed groups. All this happened when he was having the greatest success in his artistic career. He was buried 3 days after his execution in the city of Guasave in Sinaloa. Time later, the video of his autopsy was leaked. Personally, I remember very well that time. I myself managed to see a segment of the video. Many people used to have the video on their cell phones at that time. That event caused much controversy. Combo Colombia. In January 2013, 17 out of 18 musicians from a musical group called Combo Colombia were murdered in a vacant lot in the state of Monterrey after giving a show. Incredibly, only one person managed to escape the massacre and helped the authorities to locate the place where the bodies of the murdered people had been thrown. Each of them had a shot to the head. It is speculated that the person who managed to escape is now a witness protected by the federal government and that was actually released intentionally so that the murderers could claim the crime. It is presumed that the murder of these 17 people was due to an alleged betrayal of the drug cartel Los Zetas that financed the musical group, since the group had given a show in the territory of another drug cartel, the Cartel of the Gulf. That was the trigger for Los Zetas to decide to kill them. The musicians were victims of a trap that Los Zetas would have tended to them. According to some statements, a leader of Los Zetas hired them to play for him in a bar where, together with other assassins, killed them in revenge. At the moment of finishing the show, they were kidnapped and taken to a place in the middle of nowhere, where they were shot to the head and thrown in a pit. Sergio Gomez. Sergio Gomez was a Mexican singer of a very famous group in the middle of the decade of 2010. On December 1st, 2007, after giving a show in Michoacán, a state in the center of Mexico, the group went to their vans to go to another city. In one of those vans, Sergio Gomez traveled along with two other people. Meters later, the truck where the singer was traveling was intercepted by armed men who blocked their way to be kidnapped. The other two people who were traveling with Sergio were released so they sought help. Nothing was known of Sergio Gomez's whereabouts until the next day. The body of the singer had severe traces of torture, beatings, strangulation, and burns in very delicate parts of the body. All this makes us think that it was an extremely unfortunate death. Several sources assure that it was a result of the victim's agreement to appear at that event of Los Zetas, enemies of the Michoacana family, another drug cartel that ruled the zone and that carried out the planning and execution of the Gomez homicide. On the other hand, there are theories that affirm that it was due to a passional crime, because the corpse of Sergio Gomez had burns on the genitals and it was a settling of scores. As a curious fact, Sergio's bandmate reports that Sergio was very nervous the day before the last show, and that even he was not feeling well, that he feared for his life but never said the reasons why he felt that way. Another person says that on the day of the concert, Sergio told him, "Do you know what? If I die, I will die happy because I took this van to where I wanted to." Sergio Vega. It's done, folks. God bless you all and thank you for supporting my music, wrote Sergio Vega on his Twitter account days before he was killed on the 9th of June 26, 2010. The singer, who on that day was heading to a show in Sinaloa, was ambushed by an armed commando that attacked him with a burst of bullets when he was traveling in his luxurious red Cadillac. According to the testimony of a young man who accompanied the singer and who was injured by a bullet in the neck, the execution of the singer occurred around 9 p.m. that day. Telling how the events happened, the survivor recalled that Sergio Vega was driving when armed men started to chase them. These armed men were traveling in a big truck, trying to intercept them, but they didn't succeed and a persecution began. It is said that upon realizing this, he immediately alerted the police corporations by telephone about what was happening, while the singer tried to get out of danger. However, the commander continued the persecution and began to shoot at them. Some of the bullets hit the back of the car. The persecution continued until Sergio Vega was hit by bullets. The singer lost control of the vehicle, crossed the opposite lane, and knocked down a fence and a pole located on the side of the road. Finally, the vehicle ended up on a hill about 50 meters from the road. The subjects came to the vehicle and finished it off. Sergio was shot in the head and chest. To the side of the vehicle were several bullet .45 caliber caps. Hours later, the singer had denied that he had been the victim of an attack. To give more drama to the crime, in an interview given to a Mexican TV show hours before his death, Vega said that he had reinforced his safety as a result of the wave of violence experienced by musicians who were dedicated to this type of music and genre, and especially those who sing narco corridos. This is what this musical genre is called, which talks about issues that have to do with drug cartels. I, myself, who sing about very strong topics, many corridos, I have a little fear, but we have to trust God, said Vega. Tulino Sanchez. They say that he was the first brave musician in the music scene since he used to give concerts with a gun hidden in his waist. Forged much of his career in the United States, but of course, his fame also came to Mexico. But to his misfortune, his fame in Mexico was very dangerous. During a show in Coachella, California, on 1992, Tulino faced death for the first time. While giving a show, an unknown man took the stage, took his hand, and pointed at where Tulino was. The only thing left was to pull the trigger. Since long ago, Tulino knew that at any moment they could kill him. So when he realized what was going to happen, he took out a .45 caliber squad and fired the first shot. When he tried the second one, the weapon got stuck. Then he crushed the handle on the person's face. This released 2 shots that went through the singer's right lung, and then shot between 11 and 12 more impacts, but failed to hit the target. He escaped death at that time, but already had a marked appointment and would return for him, in his own land, Culiacan, Sinaloa, where he was born. He spent a childhood of deficiencies and has just finished his elementary school. At the age of 12, he went through a troubling experience as decisive. His older sister was stolen by a man from the region and took her away with him. This is a habit that is locally rooted. A man takes a woman out of her house and takes her to live with him, for better or for worse. This fact would mark the future of Tulino in a way that couldn't be predicted, becoming, a few years later, a murderer. When Tulino was 17 years old, he killed the subject who kidnapped his sister. The tragedy happened because this guy talked a lot about the kidnapping and about the intimate life of the couple, that was terrible, because according to him, Chalino's sister was very bad and in the kitchen, and that she was useless, which tarnished the reputation of the young people. The legend says that the boy approached him and said, "Look, the day I become a man, the first gun I buy, I'm going to shoot you in the chest, bastard." The future idol did what he promised. Some years later, he went to look for the kidnapper in a show that took place in Sinaloa. Chalino observed his prey for a long time, and as soon as he had the opportunity, shot him 3 times in the chest. After seeing him dead, fled from Sinaloa. This would be the inspiration of one of his first success themes, which he composed himself. Chalino was accused of several misdemeanors and detained for a few months in a prison in Tijuana, along with another of his cousins. There, he began to write more songs for money. After leaving prison, he returned to Los Angeles, where everybody already knew that he was writing songs. So, many people began to interest their life stories and personal anecdotes, which Rosalino composed and sang in exchange for payments, in cash or in kind, such as watches or gold or jewelry. Just over 3 months after the shooting in Coachella, Chalino decided to return to Culiacan. Before a show in that state, his family and friends told him to not accept any other musical contract, that returning to Mexico was very dangerous because they had threatened him with death. However, as in El Padrino, they made him an offer he couldn't refuse. That was more than any precaution. Yes, there were some strange calls. Yes, there were people who warned us about what was going to happen. But he was also a very self-confident person and said, "You know what? If my father God has already decided, it's going to happen," his ex-wife said. And that is how it was. Chalino took the stage with 5 choristers and the musicians who accompanied him. At first, the show was going as planned, until he got a written message, apparently a threat. When Chalino read the paper, the face of the criminal of the song changed. A bandmate who accompanied Chalino in the show would remember this detail years later. When he read the piece of paper that was sent, he was nervous, but he never said anything. After the show, he was intercepted by a group of armed men who claimed to be policemen, that got him out of the car he was traveling in and put him in a truck to take him north of the city. Nobody saw him again. The next day, Rosalino Sanchez Felix, 31 years old, was found with a couple of shots in the back of the neck and traces of torture. In his last moments, the father of the narco songs suffered horribly. He was so beaten that it was almost impossible to recognize him, and many refused to believe that his idol had died, until he was identified by a tattoo of a cross in the heel. 24 years away, the unknowns of the crime were not resolved, and the myth of Sinaloa continues to grow. As he himself sang in one of his songs, "For everyone who lives hard, there is always a place in the pit."